Alright guys, welcome to the Blueprint in Practice episode 8. The video series where I show exactly how I implement the blueprint in real life. And if you're new here, if you're not aware, the blueprint is probably one of, if not the simplest approach to fitness on the internet. It's how I build my physique, how I build a good amount of strength, and elite level cardiovascular fitness, training under 1 hour a week, doing only 3 exercises, and having cooked down the otherwise complicated nutritional side of fitness down to 3 simple rules as well. It's in the description. It's a PDF document with supplementary videos, and it's free to read through if you're interested. So check it out. Alright, so in today's video, I think I'll only have one topic, and I probably will also only have that moving forward. But before we get into today's topic, which is science-based lifting, and my number one problem, or probably my only problem with it, I'm going to touch on how the training is looking, nutritional updates, etc. So when it comes to training, I hit 7 reps on the chin up, so slow progression, which was what I said last time. Something I have to keep in mind now is that I always say that you have to push as hard as possible in the first set, which is also true, although you have to balance it with the fact that if you go to total fatigue on the first set, to go to total failure, then you'll fatigue yourself to a disproportionate amount in set 2 and 3. That's also something people or someone commented on in one of my videos or asked me, like, when you go full out on set 1, don't you fatigue yourself too much on set 2 and 3? And that's true. But I just like to keep it simple with just going all out as hard as possible to failure on the first set, the second set, and third set. And then I don't care how many reps I get there exactly. But you are probably, like, if you want to train optimally, you are probably better off staying 1 rep shy of failure on most sets. That's also what I'm going to do in this video, I think. Although the 7th rep is still a bit itchy, I'd say. But here I'm going to get into my first set in the chin up, and that's how we gauge when we add weight to our training, right? But I'm going to get 7 reps here. Although I maybe should have stopped at 6, honestly, because on set 2 and 3, I was only able to get 4 or 3 reps. And I mean, typically you want to see like a 1 to 3 rep drop off at most. But I went a bit too hard, I think. But that's about it. But at least I'm making progress, right? So that's great. When it comes to nutrition, I've just been eating the same stuff as always. But something I've been thinking about when it comes to nutrition is how I'm more and more convinced that the simpler you keep things, so the less different sorts of foods you eat, the better, when you're not tracking it like we're not doing here. Because unless you want to track it, like, the more complicated you make your nutritional approach, you know, if you go out and eat multiple times a week, if you constantly want to eat new things here and there, well, then it's just going to be more difficult to be accurate with how many calories you're eating. Like, if you just eat somewhat the same stuff over and over again, I mean, it doesn't have to be exactly the same stuff like I'm doing, but somewhat the same meals, like a couple different sorts of carb sources, maybe a couple different sorts of meats, etc. Then you just make it far easier for yourself to stay on track when it comes to nutrition, whether you're bulking or cutting. Obviously, if you're eating at maintenance, you don't really have to worry too much about this. But whether you're bulking or cutting, compared to if you were to just fucking eat whatever you wanted to. And if you do that, I'd recommend you to track your calories. And that's fucking sucks. That's my experience anyway. Tracking calories is not fun. When it comes to recovery or sleep, like, it's really just about getting a good night's sleep in. Although I've heard that actually it would be better to get 8 or 9 hours compared to 7 or 8 hours of sleep a night. Although I can't seem to sleep more than 7 hours a night. So that's sort of what I'm doing at the moment. Alright, so science-based lifting. The blueprint is largely based in science, although it's also based on my experience. And it has, like, as a unifying principle, simplicity. So keeping things as simple as possible. Even if that that makes it so that you have to compromise on gains in certain places. So simplicity is the number one thing. But then like the approach itself is most like the training approach, nutritional approach, etc. is obviously mostly based on science, because science is how we figured all of this out. This is how we figured out what a calorie was, what a protein was, what the optimal amount of volume is, etc., etc. Without science, we wouldn't know any of this, and we would just sort of be in the dark. Like we would sort of go back to the Middle Ages immediately. And that's not a great thing, I suspect. So like people who just bash on science-based lifting all the time, I don't really understand. Because like no matter what you do, your approach is going to be based in science to some degree. But the number one problem, or the only problem with science-based lifting, in my opinion, is how complex it can immediately become. Especially if you, as a beginner, start researching, what's the best workout? How many times should I work out? Even like the big channels like Jeff Nippert, who's probably the biggest science-based YouTube channel on YouTube. His videos are great, and I've watched most of them. But I sort of miss that he perhaps caveats. That's actually something he's been doing in his latest videos for some reason. But that he caveats, like in the beginning of his videos, that like what I'm going to talk about in this video is probably not necessary for 90% of my audience. Like unless you're at that advanced stage and you want to take it to the next level. Like what matters is just that you do a moderate amount of volume, you train hard so you go close to failure. I mean, if we're talking hypertrophy here, and you train like twice a week or a little more. And that's about it. And you do that consistently for a long time. Like, that is an approach based in science, and it's extremely simple. But then it's like, well, what about this and this and that and this and this, and talk about all kinds of different stuff, like training different parts of the muscles and stuff. All these things don't matter. And beginners don't know this. That's the problem. This is one of the primary reasons why I was sort of like lost in the fog of fitness for a couple of years in the beginning, was because as a beginner you're not aware of what matters. So you're forced to go through the fog and figure out that actually all this stuff doesn't matter, and what I should do is just stick to the basics. Really. So it's like science-based YouTubers should caveat their videos by saying that you probably shouldn't actually watch this video, because the information is not really of use to 90% of you guys. Like, yeah, because even if the information is great, which is mostly is, like it's science-based, it's scientifically proven that that this amount of volume is better than this amount of volume, etc., etc., etc. Just an example. Like, that's not applicable to most of the audience, right? That is in itself, just by watching the videos, confuses people. Because why the hell did you make the video if it was not, important? They think it is important because it comes from a place of authority. If Jeff Nippert makes a video about a new target for volume that's optimal, it's like, well, how optimal? And should I do this or not? Like, you don't know any of this when you're a total beginner. So that's my problem with science-based lifting, is that it becomes too nitpicky and complicated and that's not useful for most people. And the complexity of science, of exercise science or whatever, is not applicable to most people's lives or necessary in most people's training approaches. If you're just looking to get 90% of the results you can get, which is more than enough for basically everyone out there. Most people are just looking to get in better shape and get stronger. They're not looking to compete in bodybuilding or powerlifting or something. Hence, all this is not necessary. So I know there's beginner's guides to fitness out there and stuff, but yeah, even just pumping out, like, if 90% of your content revolves around what 10% of people should do, if they're looking to become like take things to the absolute limit of what they're capable of, then I sort of think that you should rethink, like repurpose, or at least caveat the videos by explaining how the picture lays, so that beginners don't think it's necessary to do all this stuff. Anyway, so I think I'm gonna end the rant there. So the physique check, looking pretty juicy. I'm actually leaner than I thought I would be. I'm about 91, 92 kilos at the moment. But yeah, I'm looking forward to a cut so that you can cut down and get shredded. And the cool thing about training with weighted calisthenics, something I've been thinking about, is that when you cut down, like it's not like you're going to lose a crazy amount of your strength. You're maybe going to lose a little bit of strength, but as you train with your body weight, so your body weight interferes with the amount of load you're using on chin-ups, push-ups, and so on and so forth, the fact that you drop your body weight, that is going to decrease the load. So you won't actually have to decrease the load on like your weight vest for following the blueprint at all. You might actually have to increase the load because the absolute load you lift decreases over time because you lose body weight, right? So you might actually find yourself thinking that you get stronger when you're cutting, even though you don't. It's just sort of an illusion, but that's quite cool. So you feel like you're getting stronger while you're getting leaner and more shredded. All right, so I think that's the video. If you watch to this point, you can subscribe to the channel as I upload these videos every week. I would also really appreciate it if you could like the video, and if you have any questions, let me know. I enjoy answering any questions you guys have. So thank you very much for watching, and have a good day.